You ever see a mailbox get murdered on a Friday night and think, this is it. This is what finally pushes a man over the edge? Because that's exactly what happened on my ranch. They thought they could keep running over my mailbox, week after week, truck after truck, like breaking that one hand-painted box was gonna break me, too. You know what's wild? Tonight, they didn't just hit my mailbox. They hit something they could never fix, never silence, never scare away. They hit a whole neighborhood ready to fight back, and buddy, I hope you're watching close because what happened next, I swear, you couldn't make up if you tried. Let me rewind for a second, take you back 9 months. Back when my biggest headache was whether to plant roses or sunflowers in Susan's memorial garden, back before any of these HOA folks even knew my name. Listen, after my wife Susan died from cancer 2 years ago, all I wanted was a little peace, a corner of Texas to remember her by, maybe fix a few fences, talk to Rex, my old border collie, over coffee. That's all. Apparently, wanting to keep your dead wife's hand-painted mailbox is some kind of threat to the greater good. Who knew? Name's Lucas Clark, 45 years old, Army Corps engineer turned welder, living on 2 acres that used to feel like the whole world. Every morning, I'd head out and run my fingers across those painted wildflowers. Good morning, honey, another day in paradise. Rex wagging his tail like he got the joke. That was my routine, until Michelle Torres knocked on my door, clipboard in hand. Heels way too fancy for a gravel driveway. Big HOA president smile and a developer's agenda. We need to discuss a community improvement opportunity, she said, like she was selling timeshares. When I told her I wasn't selling, she got that look. The one where the smile freezes, eyes go hard, and you know trouble's coming dressed up as progress. Michelle made it clear, the HOA wanted my corner lot, said some developer was offering 300 grand, said my rustic mailbox didn't fit the upscale image. But that mailbox was Susan's. Her brushstrokes. Her memory. So I told Michelle it stays. That's when she brought in Brad and Tony, 2 ex-cops in tactical gear, strutting like they were on a SWAT raid, one acting all tough, the other with the tired eyes of a man who's seen too much. Suddenly, my mailbox wasn't just ugly. It was a safety violation, a vehicular hazard. They rattled off fines and deadlines, handed me folders thick with HOA jargon, $500 a week if I didn't comply. You ever been threatened by a guy wearing mirrored sunglasses and cargo pants, looking like he just lost an eBay war with a mall security catalog? Yeah, that happened. But here's what Michelle didn't know. You push a guy who's already lost everything. You don't break him. You wake something up. Army engineers, we don't quit. We build things that last. And now Michelle Torres, Brad, and Tony had just made me their newest project. For 6 weeks, it was open season on my mailbox, accidental patrols knocking it sideways, Brad backing his truck into it, Tony showing up with his city maintenance crew, and spraying herbicide all over Susan's roses. You could see the satisfaction in Michelle's eyes every time she found a new violation, every time the post office called with another complaint. Week after week, I fixed what they broke, documented every dent and every threat, watched as their intimidation turned from subtle to stupid. But you want to know the twist? My neighbors were watching, too. Mrs. Carter across the street, 70 years old, zero tolerance for bullies. She started calling out their scams from her porch. Tommy Carter, her grandson, got our whole street on a group text, snapping photos, logging times, sharing video. What started as one man's quiet fight turned into the kind of old-fashioned neighborhood rebellion you only read about in books. After week 6, when Tony smashed my mailbox clean off its post and Susan's painted sunflowers scattered like confetti, I called the sheriff. Detective Santos showed up, real badge, real authority, told me Brad was a fired cop, Tony was under investigation when he retired, and Michelle? She'd been running this scam with Pine Ridge Development for years, bullying elderly and single homeowners until they sold at a loss. 3 families gone already. But not me. Not this time. That night, I made a promise to Susan and every neighbor they tried to scare, we fight back. I dug through public records, watched every HOA meeting, read up on mailbox regulations. The answer? Steel core, concrete foundation, 3 feet deep, hidden under Susan's old paint. To the world, it looked like the same mailbox. To me, it was a monument, indestructible. The first test came quick. Brad, decked out like G.I. Joe, came to inspect my new installation, clipboard and all. Tony swung by with his truck, rammed that mailbox at 10 miles an hour. The post didn't move. Tony's bumper crumpled like a soda can. He just sat there, stunned, while Mrs. Carter started taking notes for her memoirs. It wasn't just about me anymore. This was justice for all of us. Michelle didn't take the hint. She posted long-winded rants online, called for enhanced enforcement. But now we were ready. Tommy set up cameras everywhere, live-streamed every move. Neighbors brought snacks, kept coffee hot, watched from windows, phones at the ready. We built a surveillance network that'd make the FBI jealous. And when Michelle's crew planned a final assault, middle of the night, 3 trucks, headlamps off, thinking they'd finish the job for good. Half the block was already awake, watching, waiting. It was cinematic, honestly. Brad barreled down the road, aimed right for my decoy mailbox, the real one hidden safe behind the garden fence, hit it at full speed, and physics did the rest. Airbag goes off, horns blaring, front end crushed. Tony tried to save face, started yelling about private security operations, but the whole neighborhood was out in their pajamas, filming every word. Michelle tried to boss the crowd, but nobody listened. Instead, people just started laughing at the bullies who thought they ran the town. Then comes the real law. Detective Santos rolls up, takes one look, starts reading rights, and you could feel the mood shift. Brad tries to bluster. Tony starts babbling about community standards, but the evidence, 60 neighbors, multiple cameras, social media rants, insurance records, everything, was overwhelming. Michelle tried to play the victim, but she'd posted her own conspiracy in plain sight. Within a week, federal investigators swooped in, tied the harassment here to similar scams in 6 counties, uncovered a multi-million-dollar racket, and made an example out of everyone involved. 3 months later, Brad and Tony were headed for prison. Michelle was banned from any HOA position for life, and Pine Ridge Development's whole operation collapsed. But that's not the part one remember most. What stuck with me, what makes me proudest, was what happened right after. The old HOA got dissolved, replaced by a resident council. Mrs. Carter became president, Tommy got a scholarship for his Mailbox Sting documentary, and Susan's memorial garden turned into a community landmark. Folks who'd never spoken before shared coffee, planted flowers, built benches. Even the mailman brought cookies. The irony? Michelle's obsession with documentation, her need to record, to prove, to intimidate, gave us all the proof we'd ever need to bring her down. She thought she was building a legacy. Instead, she handed us justice on a silver platter. Now, every morning, I still say good morning to Susan, but I'm not alone. Sometimes Mrs. Carter is there, sometimes Tommy, sometimes kids playing in the garden she loved. That mailbox, steel and concrete, painted wildflowers, stands not just for memory, but for the day a community decided enough was enough. So let me leave you with this. Sometimes the things built to last aren't just concrete and steel. Sometimes it's neighbors, it's courage, it's people deciding that no bully, no matter how official they dress, gets to write the final chapter. If you've ever stood up to a bully or seen justice finally catch up to someone who thought they were untouchable, I want to hear about it. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching. Tell me your story. Was it right? Was it wrong? Was it just the way things had to be? Because the fight for what's right isn't over. It just moved down the block.